Paul was more creative. He was a better scorer than, say, Larry or John Havlicek. I think Havlicek and Larry and Paul were probably the best offensive players that the Celtics ever had. And I think Paul tops that list, in my opinion.
Chris, is Pierce's being overhyped here? Wow, I know.
Well, look, let me say this, and it's documented. I'm not speaking from sources or anything. Robert Parrish has a history of messing around with mind-altering drugs. I mean, Larry Bird is by far the best offensive player in Celtics history. It's not even a discussion. I don't even know that Pierce would say anything differently. I do have a funny Paul Pierce story, though, before I get into it. When Pierce won the Finals MVP in 2008, led the Celtics over the Lakers in the Finals, great performance, he said that summer he was the best player in the world. And I don't know if I tweeted it or just said it on a television show or something, but I said, I'm not even sure if he's in the top 10, okay? And Pierce texted me back saying, "You're not in my top 10 local reporters." So, look, I love Pierce.
I hope you would have told him, I don't work in Boston.
Yeah, that was the first thing. I don't work in Boston.
Elevated, yeah.
I love Pierce. I love what he's doing on television. Look, Pierce, first ballot Hall of Famer. I think he was clearly the best offensive player and the Finals MVP, obviously, on one of the best teams of this era. I think behind the Kobe, Shaq Lakers and these Golden State Warriors, if I had to take the best team, since 2000, I would look at those that big three Boston.
I'm going to stop
just
you.
that 1 year.
The 2004 Pistons were even better.
No.
Yes, they were.
Just stop it. They didn't have didn't have
Shaq
any
and Kobe
superstars.
in 5 games.
Shaq and Kobe were falling apart.
Had nothing
They
to
were
do
at
with it.
odds.
Give
They were
the
fighting
Pistons
against
credit.
They were a decent squad.
Decent?
Congratulations. Nah, they were good, but no, they weren't better than Pierce, Garnett, and Ray Allen and Rajon Rondo. You get your chance. That's ridiculous. All right, but here's the thing. I did feel like this jersey retirement, it was just a jersey retirement, was like the biggest jersey retirement I've ever seen. It felt bigger than Kobe's in LA. Usually jersey retirements are big locally, but it's not a national story.
Right.
But this was, look, in part because of Isaiah Thomas and the whole video tribute fiasco, and then because Paul Pierce is on national TV, on NBA Countdown, on ESPN. So that added to it, too. But those things, the hype combined with Robert Parrish's statements, I did feel like it's being a little bit overblown. As great as Pierce is, now, this might sound low. I looked at the great small forwards of all time. And again, Pierce is a first ballot Hall of Famer, no question in my mind. Clearly one of the greatest players of this generation. I do think, too, if the NBA does a top 75 team, and I think it would be 2022, like they did the top 50 players of all time, I think he'd be on the top 75 team. But I think he's the 9th best small forward of all time. That sounds low, but you got LeBron James, Larry Bird, Kevin Durant, Dr. J, Elgin Baylor, Rick Barry, Scottie Pippen, Dominique Wilkins, and then I put Paul Pierce behind those
Hard
guys.
to argue with that list.
Yeah.
I think that's a strong
and
list.
I even put him ahead of Havlicek and James Worthy.
And Havlicek and Worthy were great players.
Yeah, so that's a heck of a position in the NBA. So, but yeah, I think it's being a little overblown.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm biting at
Don't
the
bring up
chop.
the Pistons.
No,
again.
I'm not. I'm talking about this. I'm with you. It's no diss to Paul Pierce. It just seemed like it was bigger than it really should have been. Like, I'm kind of surprised. And let me just give you I did some reporting on Robert Parrish to kind of explain why he said what he said, okay? So back in 2013, he called Larry Bird and he called Kevin McHale. Bird was the president of basketball operations for Indiana, and McHale was coaching the Rockets back then. So he called, and this is the quote from Robert Parrish, basically saying, I need a coaching job in the NBA. I'm restless and I need money. And supposedly neither one of those guys called him back. So now you see why the dig to Larry Bird, like he was looking for a gig. Bird never called him. So I'm just saying that's why. There's no way you could really look at Paul Pierce and think of him being better than Larry Bird. And I think, I don't know about the retiring of his number, but maybe he should at least got him an Academy Award in that NBA Finals against the Lakers. Do you remember this?
The wheelchair?
Where he was in the wheelchair. Do you remember this? He leaves the court in a wheelchair. Do we have the... Yeah. In a wheelchair, right?
The pain, though. He was
in so much pain and everything. But you know what? He came back and played. How do you leave and come back? How do you leave in a wheelchair?
Why can't he be gutsy?
No.
Why can't he be a guy that plays through intense pain? Why you gotta look at it the negative way?
You can't leave in a wheelchair.
That was bad.
You got to go to the hospital when you leave in a wheelchair.
I
mean, come on. That was ridiculous.
I guarantee those boys clowned him after that.
Come on. And just pure numbers, Larry Bird had a higher scoring average. He won 3 championships in Boston, which is a fabled and organization and franchise. It now seems like they celebrate like even the Isaiah Thomas celebration and tribute. The guy had a cup of coffee and a sweet roll in Boston, and they're having a night for you. I mean, you should have to win something or a championship or leave a legacy. And I thought that celebration should have been more about that team, which you brought up, than it was just Pierce. You know, that team in Boston history, I get it. But I think the Paul Pierce stuff was overblown.
Wow.
You should take a bow.
So I got to reread this question. Is Pierce's career being overhyped? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. If anything, he's been one of the most underrated, possibly underappreciated talents in this league, because he in Kansas, he did the same thing he did in Boston. In Boston, they were so terrible. Before the Big Three was ever even thought of, Paul Pierce was still a staple in that Celtics uniform. This pride of Celtic, the pride of Boston. Paul Pierce, he was an unbelievable scorer. I think the reason why we kind of overlook Paul Pierce and his career, was he a better offensive talent than Larry Bird? Absolutely not. Let me say that. No, he was not. But he has that 1970, 1980 old man game, whereas everything about him is slow. He got the high socks, the headband. He even talks a little slow. Like, everything about Paul Pierce is like, I wouldn't pick him up in a pickup game, but then you get him on the court and he does everything right. He can beat you off the dribble. As slow as he moved, he was always very effective and very efficient. And when I look at what he was able to do with Boston without the Big Three.
Oh, yeah, you know what he did? They were 3 and 4. Antoine Walker.
Exactly. They did go good. They went to the conference finals.
But they were 3 and 4 in playoff series.
I totally get that.
Before they got the Big Three.
I totally get that.
Okay.
And they were terrible before they got
But we're not talking about an Eastern Conference that was terrible at that time.
True.
The Eastern Conference was stacked at that time. So it was hard with just one player. It was just him. Antoine Walker came on late. Then you get the Big Three. He stays. He could have left Boston a long time ago. He chose to stay. They get the Big Three, and he has a continued great career, and they win the championship. So to say that this is all overhyped, I don't think it's overhyped. I think it's well-deserved. We should see more of it. It's hard to have the type of career that Paul Pierce has displayed and that he's had in Boston. When you think of Boston Celtics, when you think of the New York Knicks, you think of the Los Angeles Lakers, you don't think of guys getting their numbers lifted in the rafters too often.
Should Kevin Garnett get his number retired too by the Celtics?
He was
as big of a part,
and he will.
He was a big of a part of that championship as well.
I'm not to say that, but it's a difference when you are drafted by a team. When they are the team that brought you into this league and you stuck with them throughout all the lows that he was able to stick out with them through, and then bring this, what they all been so accustomed to, all these championships with Bird and McHale and all these guys. Paul Pierce was a great player.
I think the reason they did, I assume Kevin Garnett's going to get his jersey retired. I believe the reason they did Pierce first was, as you said, he was drafted by the team. He was with them most of his career. whereas Garnett was just, you know, a handful of seasons. But what I question is, how are you saying Pierce is underrated? Because I think he's a 10-time All-Star. Like, even those years when Boston was really down, he still was making All-Star
He was
teams.
the guy from Boston.
I think he got love even though the team wasn't that good.
Well, I'm just saying, the question is his career being overhyped?
Well, I think all the ceremony and like you say, normally this is a local thing.
Have you ever
like
seen
national.
a jersey retirement like this?
No,
Okay.
I haven't. And to your point, I think it's because, I mean, the game was on the network that he works for, and so, I mean, they're obviously gonna spread some love to him with that. But when I look at Paul Pierce, I'm not saying that he was underrated as a player. I think as far as the media, what we typically see is a flashy guy who can handle the rock, who can put up buckets in a flashy and flamboyant way. That wasn't Paul Pierce's game. So we kind of, yes, was he a great player? Was he a 10-time All-Star? Absolutely. But we don't think of Paul Pierce the way we think of like a James Harden today and Chris Paul and all these.
He's Harden though.
I'm not.
He's not Harden.
But what he was able to do by himself. It's a different league. He did it by himself. Yeah, they didn't win, but he was able to put up these numbers and
they
still
were
make.
horrible.
They were terrible.
Hey,
We got to wrap this up.
I
you
just
know
don't
what?
put him
Hey,
in
Greg,
with
pick up
James
your
Harden.
phone. It's the Celtics. They're going to retire your number. They're going to retire your number.
Hey, I'll take it.
He didn't even play.
Hey, I'll
Video
take it.
tribute.
Hey, I'll take it. Give me that. Give me that.
We're going to wrap this up. Rob, your wheelchair is here. They saw your face. They think you're in
Where's my
distress.
wheelchair? I need it.